The wall didn't just dent. It crumpled. It physically caved in. NASCAR had to stop the entire race, bring out welding equipment, and repair the barrier before anyone could even think about racing again. 25 minutes. That's how long it took just to fix the damage. Now imagine what that same force did to the human being sitting inside that car. Christopher Bell hit the outside wall at Michigan International Speedway at nearly 200 miles per hour. The back end of his Toyota erupted in flames on impact. Drivers across the entire field, hardened, experienced professionals who have seen crashes their entire careers, got on their radios and said things they rarely say out loud. Bubba Wallace said, "Holy, please tell me that guy's alright. My God, that was the scariest hit I've ever seen." Eric Jones said, "Golly, I hope they get out. That's like the hardest wreck I've ever seen." Ryan Blaney said, "Oh my God, that looked massive. Let me know if they're both okay." And here's what makes this story so much bigger than just a crash. Christopher Bell has been cleared to race this weekend with a fractured wrist. Stay with me, because what's unfolding right now at Joe Gibbs Racing is one of the most serious situations in NASCAR this entire season, and most people still don't understand the full weight of it. Before we go any further, if you're new here, this is NASCAR Report Today. We cover the real stories behind the race results, the ones that actually matter for the championship. Hit that subscribe button right now and tap the bell so you never miss a story like this one. There are thousands of fans already in this community and we'd love to have you here. Now let's get into it. To understand everything that's happening right now, you have to go back to lap 148 of the Firekeepers Casino 400 at Michigan International Speedway on Sunday, June 7th. The race had just restarted. Christopher Bell was exactly where a championship contender needs to be, near the front, running side by side with Chase Elliott, fighting for second place behind William Byron. Both drivers were on fresh tires. Both were pushing hard. Then Chase Elliott's number 9 Chevrolet broke loose underneath him. The car snapped, hooked hard to the right, and fired directly into Bell's number 20 Toyota. The contact was immediate and violent. Bell's car was sent straight into the outside wall. The back end caught fire on impact. Kyle Larson, running completely separately on the track, was struck by debris from the collision. His crew chief Cliff Daniels later confirmed, "We think it was the right side window from the 20 that hit us." The violence of this crash was so widespread it reached a car that wasn't even involved in the accident. NASCAR threw the red flag. Welding crews came out. The safer barrier in turns 3 and 4 had been physically dented from the force of that impact. 25 minutes of repairs before racing could continue. Both Bell and Elliott got out of their cars under their own power. Elliott walked directly over to Bell on the track. The two shared a brief exchange, a side hug, and then both were loaded into ambulances. Elliott spoke to the media shortly after and took complete, unambiguous responsibility. He said, "It was totally my fault. I feel really bad for Bell just taking him out. I just got in there and got free. As soon as I was committed to spinning, it just hooked up and unfortunately sent Christopher into the wall really hard. It was a huge hit for him." Bell's experience was a completely different story. While Elliott was speaking to the media, Bell was still inside the infield care center. He spent nearly an hour in there. When he finally came out, he declined all interview requests. He said nothing publicly. He walked to the JGR team plane without speaking to anyone. But someone noticed something. Bell was spotted boarding that plane with what appeared to be a cast on his left arm. That image circulated on social media within hours and was the first real signal that something serious had happened, something beyond what the initial release from the care center had suggested. When Joe Gibbs appeared in the post-race press conference, fans were hoping for reassurance. They didn't get it. Gibbs said, "It is his wrist and his ankle, I think, so we're just going to have to wait." And then he said it again. "We're just going to have to wait." No confident dismissal. No, it's minor. No timeline. No reassurance whatsoever. Just waiting. Joe Gibbs has been in this sport for decades. He knows how to manage a press conference. When a team owner of his experience offers no reassurance after a wreck like that, you pay attention to what he's not saying just as much as what he is. A post then surfaced on Reddit from an account connected to Bell's father, suggesting the driver could potentially be out for a month. That wasn't an official statement, but it was enough to make the entire NASCAR community take a long, hard look at the situation. On Tuesday, Joe Gibbs Racing released an official statement. Christopher Bell had suffered a fractured left wrist. After being evaluated at the infield care center on Sunday and returning home to North Carolina, X-rays confirmed the fracture. JGR also confirmed that Bell has been cleared and will race at Pocono Raceway this weekend. Bell responded publicly on social media. He wrote, "Thank you to each and everyone who reached out to check on me. I truly feel the love. I'm grateful for my team of doctors, JGR, NASCAR, and all of the previous drivers who have helped pave the way for the safety standards in our sport. See you in Pocono. That message says a lot about Bell's character. Grateful, forward-looking, already focused on the next race. But that message does not answer the harder question. Being medically cleared to race and being physically capable of racing at a championship level are two completely different standards. And right now, the only people who truly know where Bell falls on that spectrum are inside the JGR garage. Let's talk about what racing with a fractured wrist actually means. Every single lap in a NASCAR Cup Series race involves sustained steering loads through corners at high speed. Every braking zone requires precise pressure and feel from both hands. Every adjustment, and there are dozens per lap, demands quick, controlled input. Vibrations travel through the steering wheel the entire time. Now think about Pocono Raceway specifically. Pocono is a triangular track with 3 completely different corners, long straightaways, and some of the most demanding braking zones on the entire circuit. It is not a track where a driver can manage things passively. It demands active, aggressive input throughout the race. Racing through a fractured left wrist for several hundred miles at Pocono is not a comfortable proposition. It is a serious physical challenge. And the question is not whether Bell can start the race or even finish it. The question is whether he can compete at the front, manage tire wear, execute restarts under pressure, and fight for position the way he has been doing all season long. Nobody outside JGR can answer that right now. To understand why this matters so much, you need to understand exactly where Bell stood before Michigan and where he stands right now. Heading into that weekend, Christopher Bell was one of the strongest drivers in the entire 2026 NASCAR Cup Series. 5 top 5 finishes, 6 top 10 finishes, 398 laps led on the season, third in the entire series, behind only Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson, and ahead of current points leader Tyler Reddick. He had posted back-to-back runner-up finishes at Charlotte Motor Speedway and Nashville Superspeedway. This was a driver in form, building momentum at exactly the right time of the year. The crash erased all of that momentum in seconds. Bell dropped 3 spots in the standings from the Michigan DNF. He now sits 10th in points, 259 points behind Tyler Reddick. More critically, he holds just an 81-point advantage over Joey Logano in 17th place. That margin is thin. And this is where the 2026 playoff format makes everything more serious. NASCAR changed the structure this season. The top 16 drivers in points advance to the playoffs at the end of the regular season, regardless of win total. The old win-and-you're-in safety net no longer exists. A driver cannot bank a victory and coast. Every single race matters. Every single points finish matters. Bell sits just 81 points above the playoff cut line. That does not absorb damage easily. One bad race could be manageable. 2 bad races while racing with a compromised wrist could create a real mathematical problem. And if drivers like Logano below the cut line continue accumulating points while Bell struggles, that margin disappears. Dale Earnhardt Jr. put the mental challenge in perspective when he said, "They now have to compartmentalize that fear or that danger. I've got to go out here and continue to put myself in that situation and at that risk." It's incredible. They have to ignore a lot of trauma and a lot of dangers and fears to go out there and risk their lives. That is exactly what Bell is being asked to do this weekend. Here is what the situation at Joe Gibbs Racing actually looks like when you step back. They are running their driver with a confirmed fracture because the points math gives them no real choice. That is how tight the 2026 regular season standings are. That is how much every race matters under the new format. But what if Bell races Pocono and the wrist doesn't respond well? What does the following week look like? What does the rest of the month look like? JGR cannot afford several weeks of a compromised Bell finishing in the mid-pack while drivers below the cut line keep scoring points. The math is tight right now. It will not get more forgiving as the regular season moves toward its end. Every fan watching Pocono this weekend will be watching more than the race result. They will be watching how Bell manages the car, how he handles restarts, whether the wrist becomes a visible factor, whether he looks like the driver who had back-to-back runner-up finishes heading into Michigan, or whether something has changed. This is a story that is not over after one race. It may not be over for weeks. This is one of the most important situations in NASCAR right now, not just for Christopher Bell, not just for Joe Gibbs Racing, but for the shape of the entire 2026 playoff picture. Christopher Bell walking away from that Michigan wall was remarkable. It is a testament to how far NASCAR's safety standards have come, and Bell himself acknowledged that. The safer barrier. The Hans device. The fire suit. The safer barrier technology that generations of drivers helped develop, it all did its job on Sunday. But walking away and being fully ready to fight for a championship are two different things. And the next several weeks will tell us which version of Christopher Bell takes the wheel. That is the real story coming out of Michigan. Not the crash itself. What happens next? If you want to stay on top of every development in this story and everything else happening in the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series, make sure you are subscribed to NASCAR Report today. Hit the subscribe button right now, turn on notifications, and be part of the community that follows this sport the right way, deeper than the highlights, deeper than the headlines. We'll be watching Pocono very closely this weekend, and we will have full coverage right here. Until next time, stay safe, stay fast, and we'll see you in the next one.